They thought they could buy me. They thought they could buy Africa. They were wrong. 3 weeks ago, Benjamin Netanyahu's government sent me a letter that changed everything, not just for Burkina Faso, but for this entire continent. Let me tell you exactly what happened because the world needs to hear this story. I was in my office reviewing security reports when my aide brought me an envelope marked Diplomatic Correspondence Confidential. Inside was a proposal that made my blood boil. Israel was offering Burkina Faso $1.2 billion. That's more money than our entire national budget. But this wasn't aid. This was a bribe. They wanted me to stop criticizing their policies. They wanted me to convince other African leaders to go soft on Palestine. They wanted me to become their spokesperson in the African Union. And here's the part that really shows how desperate they were. They wanted me not to seal and shut down their business operations across Africa. For that, they offered me an extra couple of billions on top of everything else. Think about that for a moment. They were so terrified of losing their African business networks that they were willing to pay billions just to keep one soldier quiet. But this wasn't aid. This was a bribe to protect their empire. I read that letter 3 times. Each time, I got angrier. See, these people fundamentally misunderstood who I am. I didn't stage a revolution just to become another puppet dancing for foreign masters. I didn't risk my life overthrowing a corrupt government just to become corrupt myself and protect foreign business interests on my continent. I'm a soldier. Soldiers don't negotiate with people trying to compromise their mission. And my mission is African sovereignty, economic, political, and strategic. When I took power in Burkina Faso, I made a promise to my people. No more foreign interference. No more exploitation disguised as partnership. No more selling our dignity for temporary comfort. That letter was testing whether I meant what I said. The letter came through diplomatic pouches, but the real message was delivered through intermediaries. High-ranking officials from neighboring countries, supposedly friendly advisors, all suggesting I consider the practical benefits of this arrangement. They painted pictures of transformed infrastructure, modern hospitals, upgraded military equipment. They talked about Burkina Faso becoming a regional powerhouse, a model for African development. But every conversation ended the same way. Just tone down the anti-Israeli rhetoric. That's when I realized this wasn't just about one letter. This was a coordinated campaign. They had been watching me, studying me, building a profile of what they thought would make me compromise. They calculated wrong. So I did something they never expected. I called a press conference and read their letter on live television, word for word, including their desperate plea to protect their business operations. You should have seen their faces when that news reached Tel Aviv. Complete panic. Because suddenly, their secret diplomatic strategy and their business protection scheme was front-page news across Africa. But I wasn't done, not even close. Standing at that podium, I looked directly into the camera and said what needed to be said. They believe our dignity has a price tag. They think African leaders are for sale in a global marketplace. They think they can pay us to protect their business interests while they exploit our people. Today, we proved them wrong. I held up that letter for everyone to see. This document represents everything wrong with how the world sees Africa. They see us as a market, not as people. They see our leaders as employees, not as representatives of sovereign nations. The silence in that room was deafening. Journalists who had covered African politics for decades later told me they had never seen anything like it. A leader voluntarily exposing an offer of billions of dollars. That moment changed everything. Within hours, their Africa Not For Sale was trending in 14 countries. But this wasn't just social media noise. This was a continental awakening. Mali reviewed every Israeli contract. Niger recalled their ambassador from Tel Aviv. Chad suspended diplomatic talks. Ghana's president, who never takes sides, publicly supported our position. South Africa called our response a masterclass in dignified leadership. But here's what really scared them. The youth responded. Students in Senegal organized protests demanding transparency on all foreign aid deals. Young people in Kenya launched campaigns questioning their government's foreign relationships. University campuses across the continent erupted in solidarity. From Cairo to Cape Town, young Africans were sharing clips of my speech. They weren't just supporting Burkina Faso, they were supporting the idea that Africa could say no. The youth movement that emerged was unlike anything we'd seen before. They called themselves the uncompromised generation. Netanyahu's team went into full damage control. According to sources in Tel Aviv, the prime minister was furious. He reportedly said, Traoré turned a private agreement into a weapon against us. Good. That was exactly my intention.